we start with Metal Gear Solid 3.
Woo.
Now, what's the reason why I said that we can forget about this? Forget about everything so far. That's because Metal Gear Solid 3 is a prequel. It takes place in 1964, like way before the other games. And it's basically, this is a starting point of the Metal Gear universe, to some extent. We'll jump right into it. Quiet. This is also the point in time where I don't use my own music anymore, because I ran out of good songs.
These games have really good.
Great. Let's get into it. Let's get into it by jumping back 50 more years. To after the end of World War I. After the end of World War I, that's such a high-res picture. After the end of World War I, some of the most powerful men and women in Russia or Soviet, China, and the United States gathered to form an organization. These people were called a Wise Men's Committee, and the organization they formed were called philosophers. The goal of this organization was that to basically have a secret cooperation between these three superpowers to try to prevent another atrocity like World War I. That was the original vision. Yeah, pretty much. However, in the 1930s, the last original members of the philosophers died, and after this they kind of lost its way. Instead of preventing war, they started to fuel wars. They became involved in pretty much every war on Earth and are described to being war itself at this point in time. However, during World War II, China, Soviet, and the United States, they gather a huge fund. They gather a massive fund to be able to fight the war more efficiently. A fund that's described to be big enough to fight the war 5 times over. This fund contains, at this time, it contains $100 billion. So it's a fuck ton of money, especially for like 1940s. This fund is called the Philosopher's Legacy. So now we move on to without a doubt, the most important person in the Metal Gear universe, by far. And that's a person we don't know her name. We know that she's called the Boss. And who's the Boss? The Boss, I'm gonna have to go back to my little. We can't use this. We'll have to go back to the Boss mind map and timeline. So, the Boss, born in 1922, her father was one of the philosophers. She knows a lot about philosophers because her father told her. However, he told her too much and got killed by the philosophers. So, when she grew up, she started working as an instructor in like one of the philosopher's charm schools. In World War II, she joined the SAS, you know, the Air Force thing. Don't know. Do you know what SAS stands for? Can't remember. Special Air Specials.
Special Aviation Service.
It's probably air, because it's air thing. There she meets a man called Zero, Major Zero. They become very good friends at this point. We'll talk more about Major Zero later, but he's very important. So they fight in the SAS together. They are in with Heliopolis raids, and they're in the North African campaign and things like that. This point, she basically already at this point she's become a war hero. In 42, with help from the Philosopher's Legacy, she forms a special forces unit called the Cobra Unit. And the Cobra Unit is basically 5 freaks who are the best freaks in the world. So good that they describe to have single-handedly pretty much won World War II. They're like fucking good. And who are they? They're all named after emotions. The code names are all emotions in Cobra. So the boss in the middle there is called the Joy. And then we have, I'll just walk out here. I'll scream here so that everyone can hear it in the mics. The Pain. He controls bees, I guess, or hornets. So we have World War II was won by bees. We have the Fear, who deals with like poisons and hallucinogenics. hallucinogenics. It's called, right? Yeah. The ant who's like a sniper who talks to the trees, and he's old as shit. The sorrow, who's a medium. Oh shit. His medium talks to ghosts. He's like he has psychic abilities. And then there's the fury, which is like a failed astronaut who has a flamethrower. Great. They're part of the Normandy landing, for example, on Juno Beach. However, in this landing, the boss is 9 months pregnant, the father being the sorrow. They become very, very close and form a romantic relationship. So she's pregnant and she gives birth on the battlefield. On Juno Beach, on D-Day, she gives birth to what's described as a beautiful baby boy named Adamska. However, Adamska is immediately taken away by the Patriots. No, not the Patriots, the philosophers. I'm going to say that a lot because it's two secret organizations that both starts with P. Just like I always call Archon Ocelot. In 51, she takes part in some nuclear testing, which renders her infertile. She also meets a man called John. His real name is John Doe. Great. That's the real name. She calls him Jack though, because that's his code name. She meets him. He's a young man, and they connect basically and form a student-teacher relationship. She's his mentor. She teaches him everything. They do everything together. They fight together. They live together. They eat together. They die together, basically. And they become extremely, extremely close. Not in a romantic way or not in a mother and son way, but just it's a mentor and a very respected and important figure. However, she disappears on him after they develop a fighting style as well. That we'll be talking, you will be seeing it. The fighting style of Metal Gear Solid, the real fighting style they actually invented in these games, called CQC, Close Quarters Combat. It basically meant to, when you can't shoot someone because they're too close, you can quickly take them down instead. But yeah, she disappears because she gets another mission that means that she has to leave him, so she just disappears on him. Yeah, great. She's part of the Mercury project, you know, when the US sent people up in space because they were jealous of Gagarin. So she's been in space as well. And in 1962, she gets a mission to kill one of her former comrades who happened to be on the other side. And that person is the Sorrow. The philosophers tell her to kill the Sorrow, and they tell the Sorrow to kill her, because at this point the philosophers basically broken up. They formed factions within themselves. While they still technically exist as one unit, they're also different factions. Think how Soviet was in the worst times, right? But instead of just Soviet, it's the entire world. But yeah, so in a fictional place in like around, I think it's like around Kyrgyzstan, a fictional place called Selinoyarsk. They meet and the Sorrow basically sacrifices himself. The reason why they have to kill each other is because they have their baby. So if they don't comply, they will kill their baby. The Sorrow sacrifices himself and the boss kills him. Great. And I think that's where we can be done with the boss for now and pick up on the real meat of the game. Starting with what's called the Virtuous Mission. Now, some backstory for this as well. A Soviet weapons expert called Sokolov, the guy on the left there, is working on what's described to be a very terrible weapon, basically, in Soviet. But he's doing this against his will, and he requests to be defect to the United States. So an operation is played out that basically smuggles Sokolov out of Soviet. And they're planning to get him all the way to the United States, but whilst they're in West Germany, something happens. Because what happens in, I think it's 62 still, right? Yeah. Cuban Missile Crisis. That's 62, right? 61? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's 61 as well, right? And then JFK got shot in 62. Yeah. 61. This is 61. The Cuban Missile Crisis happens. And we know the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? Soviets start to basically get prepared to ship nukes to Cuba. And the story we know is that in reality, Khrushchev and John F. Kennedy came to an agreement that Khrushchev and the Soviet would pull out of Cuba if the United States pulled out or removed their nuclear ramps from Turkey. However, that's a lie. That's all a big lie that you've been fed. The real thing that Khrushchev wanted was Sokolov back. So if you want to imagine how dangerous this weapon that Sokolov is working on, it's enough to make Khrushchev pull out of Cuba. So, what is the Virtues mission? The Virtues mission is basically just take back Sokolov again. That's the mission. Oh yeah, let's bring up a map. He's also being held in Selinoyarsk, and it's around there, around the Kyrgyzstan area, Soviet area, of course. So, the Fox unit created by I forgot to mention that. The Fox unit, a CIA under CIA Special Forces unit, created by Major Zero, the guy from before, and Boss, the boss, not Big Boss. They send in one of their agents called Snake. This Snake is the same John as Boss had as her student. So, down to the left there we have Snake, codename Naked Snake. And here's the support team for this game. We have Major Zero up in the left, the commander of this mission, the commander of Fox. We have down to the right, we have Paramedic, who's like a medic expert who provides medic support. And then there's also a surprise for a Snake. Another person who will support him for this mission is the Boss, who we see in the top right. That's the Boss. And they have a conversation where they just talk via radio, basically. And they have a conversation where, you know, everything is revealed about their history. And she says, "How long has it been, Jack?" And Jack or Snake responds, "It's been 5 years, 72 days, and 18 hours. And why did you leave on me?" And she has a big speech about soldiers must do their duty. They're not supposed to have ideologies. They're not supposed to have opinions. They're just supposed to do to fulfill their duty for their country. Blah blah blah. So we sneak some shit and we find Sokolov. Sokolov is being held in secret in a abandoned factory. Now, why is he being held secret? Basically because at this time in Soviet, things aren't that great for Khrushchev. Because a certain other faction has come up and they're trying to bring him down. That's the Brezhnev faction. Now, the KGB still supports Khrushchev, but the Spetsnaz group GRU, they support Brezhnev. So in fear that GRU will take Sokolov and the weapon and use it as like a bargaining chip to bring Khrushchev down, Khrushchev has hidden Sokolov in an abandoned factory. But that doesn't matter, we know where he is either way because it wasn't very well kept secret. We find Sokolov. Sokolov talks about what the weapon actually is that he's working on. The weapon is called the Shagohod. A Shagohod is a tank, basically. An armored tank that can launch nukes. The first in history. And that's why it's dangerous. Because, you know, what's the point of all the time in Cuba if you can just ship in a Shagohod? Or if you can just launch it from anywhere, and it doesn't matter. It's the ultimate nuclear weapon, it's the ultimate deterrence. However, he says that it's only in stage 1, it's not complete yet. They need me to complete it, so take me the fuck out of here. As soon as you leave, you're surrounded by KGBs, but the KGB people are interrupted by a man called Major Ocelot, top right, who comes in and he just shoots everyone, real cool. And then you're surrounded by the Ocelot unit, a special unit under GRU, led by Major Ocelot. And Ocelot is acting all cool and he's about to shoot you with his Makarov. Yeah, he does, that's the thing. Ocelot does a lot of this, a lot of this. And people actively mock him for that in the game. Like people, what the fuck are you doing? He's like. So yeah, he's a Russian cowboy. He loves cowboys for some reason. He has like, you know, those, what do you call those things on the boots that you use to damage your horse? Spurs. Sperms. Oh. But yeah, so he tries to shoot you, but he tries to eject the bullet by hand from his macro, and it locks up, it jams. Snake uses this opportunity to take down the entire unit basically with just a trank. And right before Ocelot passes out, Snake comes up to him and gives him some tips, right? Like, you tried to eject that bullet by hand. That was stupid, it doesn't work with the macro. You tend to twist your elbow when you shoot, that's more of a roller technique. But you're pretty good. It's cool.
Excuse me for interrupting, but we have a special guest too. Oh, he is a Metal Gear Solid fan.
Oh, holy moly!
We're in Metal Gear Solid 3 right now.
We just got to the point where Ocelot tried to eject the bullet by hand in the macro.
Awesome.
That's great.
Excuse me,
Yeah, great. Fucking great. Yeah, he gives us some tips, we move on. We see the Shagahorn in the distance, we walk with Sokolov. Yeah. We walk across the suspension bridge, and who do we meet there but the boss? Now, what the hell is the boss doing here? She's carrying a Davy Crockett missile launcher and a nuclear missile. What is Davy Crockett? It's a real thing. It's terrifying. Shortly speaking, it's a bazooka that can launch a nuke. And she informs us that she's defected to the Soviet Union. Colonel Volgin, the leader of GRU, or colonel in GRU, comes behind her. And yeah, she defected to the Soviet Union at this point. So she's a traitor, basically. She says, I'm taking Sokolov with me. I have to kill you now. Blah, blah, blah. Before you can notice, a very surprisingly sneaky helicopter comes up. And in that helicopter is the Cobra unit that was supposed to be disbanded by now. But they're back. They're back, baby. And they kidnap Sokolov. So now there's just you, Volgin, and the boss on the bridge. And the boss beats the shit out of you, no problem, and throws you off the bridge. You survive the fall. Very hurt in the body and hurt in the heart. There we are, very damaged. The Shagahard is being carried away in a bunch of helicopters. Like they hold the Shagahard in the like threads. And Sokolov is on one of those as well. However, Volgin does something unexpected. He just flips the fuck out and decides, I'm gonna nuke something. So he takes the Davy Crockett and he nukes Sokolov's old research facility. And yeah, that's basically where the Virtues mission leaves off. So now we get into the real meat of this game, Operation Snake Eater. So, the aftermath of this is that Khrushchev calls the now President Lyndon B. Johnson, and there's a phone call between them where Khrushchev basically says, yo dude, so we know there's an American aircraft in Soviet airspace, and then there was just an American nuke that was launched on our country. What's happening, dude? And Lyndon is like, we don't know nothing about this. This is all the work of one lone soldier who's defecting. And Khrushchev says that I'd like to believe you, but I don't. And also I don't really have the power to stop a retaliatory strike at this point. Like my power is not where it used to be back in the Cuban Missile Crisis days. So you have to prove to me and to the country that you're innocent. Otherwise there will be a retaliatory strike and Armageddon will be unleashed. So what do we have to do to prove ourselves, to stop Armageddon? Well, that soldier that defected, have one of your men kill her. To prove that this isn't just some ploy by you. Also, whilst you're at it, can you kill Volgin? I don't like him. That's basically how the conversation goes. Oh, I need to bring up my notes. And who do they send in but Snake, of course. So Snake is sent in Tselinoyarsk again, same area, and he's sent in with the goal to kill the boss, kill Volgin, and destroy the Shagohod, and rescue Sokolov. Ooh! This is going to be really confusing for you. This is going to be so fucking confusing. Yeah, so we sneak in where we get in by like a jet. There's a new person on our support team as well called Sigint, his weapon expert, down to the left. We're told to meet up with a former NSA codebreaker who defected to the Soviet Union. We're told that there used to be two NSA codebreakers that defected to the Soviet Union, and they're called Eva and Adam. And there's the code names, of course. And Khrushchev has basically given the orders to Adam to help us. So we're supposed to meet Adam in an abandoned factory, the same abandoned factory that we met Sokolov in. We reach it, and we meet a woman on a motorcycle who says that Adam couldn't make it, I'm Eva. There's supposed to be a password that we're supposed to say. We're supposed to say, who are the Patriots? And they're supposed to respond, lali lule lo. She doesn't really have time to do this though, because we're ambushed by GRU soldiers. But she shoots them down with her Mauser gun. And then, yeah, basically she proves her loyalty there. So who's Eva? Eva is the NSA codebreaker. She's there to help us. Guide us, tell us where to go. She gives us some guns. She flirts a lot. She has her boobs out. Because Kojima likes boobs. He tries to deny it sometimes, but he just likes boobs. So she flirts a lot, and yeah, that's basically all that happens in that scene. You become friends with this Eva. However, you're ambushed by the Ocelot unit again. And yeah, you take down the Ocelot unit. Major Ocelot is back, this time sporting a revolver, because he took your advice. However, it's like a fancy collector's item revolver. And he tries to shoot you, but he has no bullets, because he's used to macro having 8 bullets and the revolver only has 6. So we take him down and we basically insult him and give him some tips more. Like, you should have some real revolver. You have to get a feel for how many bullets you have left. And we let him go. Because Snake is not a killer, I guess. Yeah, great. Now there's a lot of things that happens between this point. Also, I forgot, there's another slide missing here, but it's fine. You sneak through the jungle a bunch more. You find Ocelot once again. Now it seems like this happens like tightly in between each other, but there's a lot of gameplay in between. So yeah, we have no pictures of this, but you have another duel with Ocelot, now sporting 2 normal revolvers. Now he has 12 shots. And he's getting better and better each time you see him, as the theme with Ocelot in this game. And so yeah, we duel him. He won't allow his soldiers to interfere because he wants to have a duel like a man. Like a draw duel, because he's a Russian cowboy. However, that fight is interrupted by us being attacked by a bunch of hornets. So we jump into a cave and fight with Pain, you know, the Cobra unit guy with the hornets. And we kill the Pain. Yeah. I'm gonna skip past some parts that don't really matter. We see Eva, by the way, with Volgin, with like a binocular in the distance. Because Eva is, she's infiltrated Volgin's ranks. She's disguised herself as Tanya, who's supposed to be Sokolov's girl. So in the beginning, she's like used as a bargaining chip to make Sokolov do what they want. But then like Volgin basically takes her for his own and makes her his lover. But yeah, that's Tanya / Eva. Yeah. Also, I don't have a slide for that, but for some reason, the ghost of the Sorrow, the guy who died before, he just hangs around behind the boss all the time. She can see him and no one else can. Only you can see him. And he just floats around and he's creepy. You go into a research facility where Sokolov is supposed to be held, but you don't find Sokolov, you find a man called Grenin. Grenin is basically another weapons developer, but he's pissed at Sokolov because he thinks the Shagohod is stupid. Why use a tank, normal tank, where you could put legs on it, right? And he describes this as a form of Metal Gear. And this is the first time chronologically that Snake does what he does in every game. It's say Metal Gear in a question sense. Metal Gear. But yes, Granin is pissed because no one wants his thing, so he basically wants the Shagard to fail. He decides to help us. He tells us, for example, where Sokolov is being held. He's held in a fortress called Grosnyj. He also talks a bit about the Philosopher's Legacy and how Volgin actually has the Philosopher's Legacy at this point. The entire Philosopher's Legacy. Yeah, we go out. We can skip past this real quick. We fight the fear, we fight the end. That's all I have to say. Really have to say about that. 2 cool fights, especially the end is a really, really cool fight. But we're just gonna move past. We go up to a mountain. We meet Eva. She flirts a lot more. Snake kind of rejects her. Eva goes down. This mountain is overlooking Grosnyj, the fortress. So we look in a binocular a while later, and we see a bunch of shit. For example, we see that Volgin has now killed Granin because he found out that he helped, or rather, he found a transmitter in his shoe. A shoe that Granin earlier said that he got from Eva, or Tanya, as he calls her. So now they start to suspect a spy. Ocelot immediately starts suspecting Eva. But nothing really happens at this point. Also, the boss is here sometimes. She's here. We see her sometimes. She's acting cool. We sneak inside Grosnyj through a tunnel. In that tunnel, we fight the Furies. So now the Fury is dead as well. Now every one of the Cobras except for the Joy, the boss, is dead. We sneak inside. We disguise ourselves as Rykov, who's like a commander in the Grosnyj group. We just have a mask of him for some reason. Sure. So we disguise ourselves as him. We find Sokolov and we talk to him. Sokolov basically tells us at this point what phase 2 of the Shagard is. Because if we're supposed to launch a nuke a long distance, like say for example the United States, we'd have to have an ICBM, a ballistic robot, to be able to go that far. And there's no way to fit the first stage of an ICBM on top of the Shagard. So what's the solution? Just put rockets on it. Put rockets on the Shagard and let it accelerate on a runway. And from that acceleratory phase, you launch the second phase of an ICBM, basically making the Shagard itself the first phase of that ballistic robot. That's the plan. While we're talking, Volgin comes in and he says something like, "Major Rykov, what are you doing here? I was waiting for you in my room." Because guess what? They're lovers. Rykov and Volgin are lovers. Because guess what? Guess what Japanese people think is hilarious? Gay people. They think it's super funny. Like when you see Rykov before, everything he does is just go up to people and touch their dicks. Gay people are hilarious according to Kojima. So Volgin comes in and says that. He immediately goes up to you and grabs your dick. And he notices something's wrong. It's too big. He grabs you again and is like, "You're not Rykov." Yeah, that's legit how he notices you're a spy. Your dick is too big. So he starts beating the shit out of you and basically knocks you out. It's not funny, it's real. You wake up in a torture room where Volgin tortures you. He's convinced that you're here to steal his legacy, the Philosopher's Legacy. And now it's basically where some more details about the legacy is revealed. Maybe here, maybe later, it doesn't matter. I don't feel like looking at my notes right now. Basically, his father was the one who was, Volgin's father, was the one who was responsible for handling the legacy during World War II. But in the confusion after that war, when the philosophers started to split, he used that confusion to basically divide the Philosopher's Legacy with like several thousand bank transactions all over the world and hiding it in small places everywhere, making it pretty much impossible to get unless you have the full transaction data. So that's basically what the Philosopher's Legacy is at this point. We're tortured for a bit. Everyone is there, the whole gang. Ocelot is there, and Eva is there, and the boss is there. Ocelot starts suspecting Eva being a spy again, and is doing a thing that he does in this game for some reason, where he He loads 3 bullets into 1 gun, I think, out of his 3 revolvers, and then he just juggles them and does it like a Russian roulette, where he's supposed to fire 6 times. So he does that to Eva, and Volgin just lets him. However, right before he actually fires a shot, a real shot, Snake notices and kicks him from his hanging position. That makes Ocelot lose his sight, and he shoots out Snake's right eye. That's what we see up there. So yeah, they leave him alone basically. The Sorrow's ghost appears behind the boss once again and gives us a frequency we use to escape the prison. There's a prison guard there. There's a prison guard. He's not very good at his job, and he poops a lot. That's the father of Poop Johnny. Poop Johnny has returned. His name is also Johnny. Remember Poop Johnny, it's not over. There's more Poop Johnny. Way more than you expect. So yeah, you basically trick Poop Johnny and get out of prison. You sneak out of Grosnygrad. You're confronted by Ocelot in a waterfall, but you throw yourself down the waterfall before he can shoot you. You're almost dead, but you're in a dying phase. You come face to face with the Sorrow, who basically confronts you with everyone he's killed. You killed them. That's how you find out about the Sorrow, because he's a ghost at this point. But you manage to survive. You wash up on a beach. You meet back up with Eva in a tunnel behind a waterfall. Eva flirts even more than before. Now she's in a bikini as well. Right. And yeah, a bunch of shit happens. It's a very erotic cutscene, you could say. Not sex, because ew. That's not okay. But they just kiss a bit. Yeah, Eva gives you a C3, an explosive, like C4 basically. And so the plan now is that she'll plant the C3 on a bridge that you can blow up when you make your escape to not be followed. You plant it in a hangar holding the Shagohod, blowing the Shagohod up with it. So you sneak back into Grosnygrad, you plant the C3 and put the timer on 20 minutes, and you're about to leave, but you're discovered. You're discovered by Ocelot and Volgin. You see that they've taken Eva capture because they found out she's a spy at this point. And yeah, Volgin is holding up a microfilm, but he says this microfilm contains the transactions of the Philosopher's Legacy. This is basically the Philosopher's Legacy. The boss comes in and beats you the fuck up again. She does that several times in this game. And she says that I'll dispose of this spy, and I'll also take the Philosopher's Legacy and put it somewhere safe. So she leaves with those things, and you fight Volgin, man to man. It starts off like that as well. So you have a big fight with Volgin. When he realizes he's about to lose, because he's about to lose, he asks Ocelot to help him, and Ocelot refuses, because throughout this game Ocelot has grown to respect you, like a deep, deep respect. So he won't sully a fight between two men, basically. Volgin is pissed, but they continue fighting. You beat Volgin, and you leave. The whole place blows up, but Volgin survives because he's in the Shagohod. The Shagohod survives. The Shagohod chases you. You fight the Shagohod. You blow up the Shagohod, and Volgin is killed by lightning bolt. I forgot something completely. Volgin is electric. I forgot to mention that completely. Volgin has electric powers. That's never explained, I don't think. I don't think it ever explained why Volgin has electric powers, but he just does. He's electric, so he just shoots electricity from his hands. And he's called Lightning Bolt in America, which is, ironic he's killed by Lightning Bolt. But yeah, Volgin dies. And the Shagohod is destroyed. So now there's only one mission left, and that is to kill the boss. Eva says that Eva is released by the boss, and she helps us through the fight. And she says that the boss is already waiting for you by the wig. The wig is the plane that we're supposed to leave in. So we reach the place and we meet the boss. And this is a great, great scene. It's a fantastic scene, and I'm really not doing it any service by explaining it like this. This is where most of the boss's backstory is revealed. And she also talks a bit about her vision, her goal, her dream of she's very vague about what this dream is at this point. Maybe something about unification, maybe something about not being controlled, maybe something about loyalty. Sure. And that vagueness will be very relevant later in the game series. But yeah, she basically tells you that you have to fulfill your last mission, kill me if you can. And then you fight her and you end up killing her. It's a great scene, and I'm really not doing it in service. You leave in the wig with Eva, and you're about to go off, but there's one last hitch in the road. Something damages the plane and jumps in, and who is it but my boy? My boy Ocelot is back, and he wants one final showdown with Snake. And so they basically have like a draw duel with he puts 2 guns on the floor and one has a bullet. You choose the gun after he like does some tricks, you know, when like the cup game, and try to draw. You can choose to do different things here. You can, you know, fail and be shot. You can shoot him next to him. You can shoot him. Doesn't really matter because the bullet's a blank. Either way. He asks, "What's your name?" And Snake says, "My name is John." And he says, "Great, my name is Adamska." So he's the son of the boss and the Sorrow.
Okay, makes sense.
This is a semi-explanation to some extent why I can explain to you who's new. We've done Metal Gear to Metal Gear Solid 2 before this. So this is semi-explanation why he's so easily possessed by liquid, because his father is like the most powerful medium that ever lived. So he might have like some sort of thing to the spiritual world. Or that's not what happens at all. We'll talk about that later. I don't know. Yeah, so you escape with Eva, you have sex with Eva finally, and you wake up and you find that Eva has left. She's left, and she's left a tape behind, and she's taken the philosopher's legacy with her. It turns out that Eva is actually a Chinese spy. She was never working for Khrushchev. She isn't even in the real Eva, the real NSA codebreaker. She's just a Chinese spy, because the Chinese also wanted the legacy. And this is the point where the big, I guess the big plot twist of this game happens, and the most powerful moment. This is all told while Snake is walking up and shaking hands with the president for completing the mission. And at this point he's giving the title of Big Boss. You know, the person who surpassed the boss. By Lyndon B. Johnson, who has a different voice actor in this scene as well for some reason, which always bothers me. The first voice actor in the phone call is surprisingly good at sounding like Lyndon B. Johnson. Like you can almost hear like the bunghole tape in that voice. New voice actor, bad. Either way, while this is happening, the rest of the tape is continued, where Eva tells you that the boss never betrayed her country. She never defected. This was all, she fulfilled her duty to the end. She was always loyal to her country. Because the boss got a mission, and that mission was to infiltrate Volgin's ranks by giving him the Davy Crockett and the nuke and kidnapping Sokolov. This was to get her hands on Volgin's legacy. That was her mission. So, but something unexpected happened that they didn't expect. And that was the Volgin fired a nuke, which basically put, oh shit, we're back to the Cuba crisis, but worse, or Cuban Missile Crisis. And basically to cover this up, because they couldn't just reveal that they tried to get their hands on the legacy, because they still wanted the legacy. They instead chose to put all the blame on the boss and give the boss one final mission, and that mission is to secure the legacy or 2 final missions, I guess, and get killed by Snake. That was her final duty to her country. Take the blame for everything and get killed. So the game ends with a really powerful scene of like Snake refusing to shake the hand of the CIA director, like feeling betrayed by his country, walking up to the grave, an unnamed grave, which just say, "Here's lies a true patriot who fought for a country," or something like that, and walks up to it and gives salute. The grave where the most important person to him lies, died by his own hand. She will be remembered as a war criminal. She will be remembered as a terrorist. No one will know what she did. No one will ever respect her. She sacrificed everything to this, and her own country betrayed her. Yeah. So yeah, the game ends with Big Boss saluting her grave, shedding a tear, and then cuts off. And that's the end of Snake Eater, right?
Both been wiped out without a trace. I understand, sir, but they were necessary sacrifices. Yes, the CIA is taking care of the boss themselves. I believe the White House will be satisfied. Khrushchev is finished. Your time has finally arrived. Yes, the American president is relying on us to keep a lid on the whole affair. We've got him by the balls. It should make a valuable trump card in future negotiations. Yes, Chief Director, of course. I'll keep the KGB informed. Yes, it's me. The boss has accomplished her mission. The philosopher's legacy is now safely with us.
Oh, that's the
and
voice of
America's
boss, by the
hands.
way.
With this money, yes, the philosophers can finally be revived. The film we handed the Chinese was a fake. Peking must be in an uproar right about now. I'm afraid so. Only half the money is made back to the United States. The KGB must still have part of the legacy. Yes, the weapon has been reduced to ashes. That's right. Krasnygrad has been obliterated by the Davy Crockett you brought in as well. Yes, that was the boss's work too. Speaking of which, I've obtained something from Granny that you might find interesting. It's a revolutionary new nuclear attack system. Perhaps it might just come in handy someday. Yes, we have Snake to thank for that. Khrushchev believed it as well. Yes, they bought our story. I don't think they'll be making a fuss. And the secondary alert has been lifted as well. And the Soviets still haven't discovered my true identity. They have no idea that I've been triple-crossing them. I will continue my activities as a contact for the new government. Yes, it appears that no one knew that I was Adam. Of course, I am always at the CIA's disposal, Mr. Director.
Vem var det som pratade så?
Absolut.
Ja.
Såklart. Great. That's Metal Gear Solid 3. For real this time. No, nobody watched this. Oh, sure. This is an old song. Great. We'll move on to Peace Walker. But before we move on to Peace Walker, I'm just gonna look if I'm still recording. Yeah, great. Gotta be safe. Oh shit, it's disappeared. Great. There's some things we need to talk about before. And that's because between Metal Gear Solid 3 and Peace Walker, which is next to each other chronologically in the canon order, there was two games. One canon and one non-canon. I talked about Portal Ops before, how Portal Ops is not canon, but parts of Portal Ops is canon. I don't know why they did that. Sure. And then the Metal Gear Solid 4 was released before, in 2008. Peace Walker was released in 2010. There's information in those games, especially Metal Gear Solid 4, that's essential to understanding Metal Gear Peace Walker. So in order to do this and not jump too much between chronological orders and end on a narrative high note, we're just going to tell that right now. So, what happens after Snake Eater? Ocelot, who was with the CIA in secret, he teams up with Major Zero. You know, we haven't really talked about him much in Metal Gear Solid 3, but he was always there, he's the commander. He teams up with him in order to get the rest of the legacy. You know, they only got half of the legacy. And the both of them now have the entire Philosopher's Legacy. And with that, like, next to like infinite fund of money or sum of money, they decide to form an organization. An organization with the intent of fulfilling the boss's will, because they both respect the boss deeply. Bring people onto this organization, or rather, they bring in some people to form this organization with them. The people who they bring in as founding members are Major Zero, of course. We have Ocelot. We have Big Boss, Snake. We have Paramedic. We have Sigint. And we have Eva. They are the founding members of the organization that comes to be known as the Patriots. Yeah. So yeah, the intent is basically just get a bunch of power and use that power to get her will across, the dream of the boss. At this time, also Major Zero starts to use his power to make Big Boss into an idol, a symbol. He becomes a hero, described as in the same way that stars and stripes to the symbol of capitalism and communism have the symbol of the hammer and sickle. This new vision will be symbolized by Big Boss. The Patriots is also, of course, a secret organization, like every organization in this game. However, Zero and Big Boss start having a disagreement about what the boss's will actually means. What did she mean? Whereas Zero has the belief that she wanted a unified world where everything is unified. She doesn't want any borders anymore. She wants everything to be controlled by the same. Nothing that divides us. And the way to achieve this, according to Zero, is to reach total control. Control everything. If we control pretty much the entire Earth, then we can remove those borders and everything will be one. Snake has the opinion that her dream was to have a world where soldiers aren't used as tools for the government, where soldiers fight for themselves. So pretty much the opposite of what Zero wants. So they start to have major fights and disagreements. Zero starts getting scared that, shit, the guy that I've been making the symbol of this entire movement might leave me. My best friend and my most important ally might leave me. So he tried to make an insurance for himself to at least keep the symbol. He does this by conducting a secret project, by taking Big Boss's genes and cloning them. This project is called L'Enfant Terrible, which we talked about before. However, this is basically the last straw for Big Boss when he finds out about this, so he leaves. He leaves everything, and I'm just going to talk a bit about something that happens with the Patriots until the point of Metal Gear Solid 1, because it's easier that way. What happens with the rest of them? Eva leaves along with Big Boss. Ocelot kind of breaks contact with them, but he always remained in the Soviet Union as an informant, so he was never really an active part of the organization in its own. Paramedic, she kind of goes nuts on a moral standpoint, which is shocking because she's very nice and really charming in Metal Gear Solid 3. But she kind of goes nuts. She conducts genetic experiments. She's responsible for the genome soldiers. She's also responsible for Grey Fox, or Cyborg Ninja. She's the one who did the experiments on him. And as we know, how did that end? Grey Fox killed everyone. So that's where Paramedic dies. Dr. Clark is the real name. Sigint, real name Donald Anderson. He joins DARPA. He's the DARPA chief from Metal Gear Solid 1. the one who doesn't die of a heart attack, the one who is tortured to death by ocelots. Yeah, that's what happens to them. Also, Sigyn starts doing like he becomes super corrupt. He does like illegal weapons experiments. He's responsible for forming the AIs that we know the Patriots to be later on. And Big Boss, what does Big Boss do? Big Boss starts a new form of business, the PMC business, private military company, to sort of envision his own dream, his own interpretation of the boss's will. He creates a private military company that fights for their own. They're basically mercenaries to some extent, but an organized mercenary group. He calls these Militaires Sans Frontières, and that's basically where the game starts. Oh shit. That's basically where the game starts. So Big Boss has left the Patriots. The Patriots not calling themselves the Patriots anymore. It's clear sometimes they say that they were called the Patriots from the beginning. Sometimes they say they were never called the Patriots until way later. Sure, I'm just gonna call them the Patriots. But Major Zero becomes extremely paranoid, and he starts distrusting everyone because his own best friend basically betrayed him, he thinks. The Patriots and Major Zero both switch names to Cypher, and from this point on it becomes kind of a mystery about, is Cypher an organization, is it just a man, is Major Zero even alive anymore, is he controlling anything? Yeah. And that's where the game starts. In 1974, 10 years after the Snake Eater incident, Big Boss, now running the military company Militaires Sans Frontières, we're gonna call them MSF from now on, along with his right-hand man Kazuhira Miller, Master Miller who wasn't in Metal Gear Solid 1, right? But yeah, they're out training troops, and they're visited by a certain. Now this game I'm gonna have to use this for because I know this game way worse. Galvez, his name is Professor Galvez. Ramon Galvez and his student Paz. But Ramon Galvez claims to be a teacher of peace, and Paz is his student. She's basically a young girl who's obsessed by peace. However, they both see through Galvez and notice, no, you're lying to us. You're fucking KGB. And he's like, yeah, I'm KGB. So they inform us that the CIA has moved troops into Costa Rica. They moved armies into Costa Rica. Costa Rica has no army of their own, so they're basically defenseless. And they're asking you to get rid of them, basically. And why would we do this? We don't get involved. And Galvez has speech like, you know, South America and Central America is the real battleground of the Cold War. The reason I want them out is because basically I want control of this place. This is the most important place of the Cold War right now. And I don't want the CIA to be looming around in Costa Rica. Paz doesn't know about this. She's legit just a student of peace thing. She just becomes kind of a symbol from this point on, just a cute face to some extent. They deny, but then Galvez brings out a trump card. He brings out a recording that Paz has. She managed to escape a CIA facility. She was captured. And this tape contains a voice that sounds very familiar. It's the voice of the boss. And Snake, you know, is very shocked by this. This is the game that deals with the aftermath of the boss's death for Snake. This is probably the game that on a character analysis standpoint, I'm gonna butcher the most. Because a lot of this is like subtle in the way he talks and a bunch like that. This is a thing to be character development for Big Boss. But yeah, due to hearing this, they basically agree to do so, to help them rid or at least investigate Costa Rica. They're paid for this as a company. They get an abandoned oil rig basically in Caribbean Ocean to get to have their mother base. They call it mother base from now on. So now they have MSF have a place to call home. Yeah, that's where Costa Rica is, if you didn't know. I think that's the last time I remember to use this. But it's also pretty much the last location that's set in stone. in the franchise. Yeah, so Snake sneaks into this CIA facility, and he finds out that, oh fuck, they're bringing nukes into Costa Rica. Why the fuck are the CIA bringing nukes into Costa Rica? So now they're involved, for real. Yeah, they meet up with a revolutionary group called, Sandinistas. They call it Sandinistas. Revolutionary group from Nicaragua, but they were pushed out of Nicaragua by the CIA because America has a way stronger foothold in Nicaragua than they have in Costa Rica. So now they're there. The leader is Amanda Valencia Libre. That's the leader, and she has a smaller brother as well called Ricardo, but everyone calls him Chico. Yeah, so we basically talked to her a bit, and she, yeah, they're generic revolutionaries. And they're attacked by a mysterious flying robot thing who just shoots them down. They kidnap Chico and they hurt Amanda real bad. We managed to get Chico back from their prison. Nothing really happens story-wise in that whole thing. All that really happens is that now the Sandinistas revolutionaries join MSF and they see you as their leader. So you basically become a revolutionary leader at this point. Also showcasing Big Boss's way to persuade people. He has talent for getting people on his side. He doesn't like to be called Big Boss, by the way, in this game, because it represents him killing the boss. So he just wants to be called Snake. Yeah, great. Snake enters a research facility where hears that there's some shit going down. Here, he overhears a conversation between a researcher called Huey Emmerich, the father of Hal Emmerich Otacon, and a CIA director man that's stationed in Costa Rica called Hot Coldman. Real name, Hot Coldman. And they're having an argument. Having an argument about the Peace Walker. Now, what is the Peace Walker? The Peace Walker is I'm just gonna say all this right away. And the Peace Walker is something that Huey has been working on. It's a bipedal tank that can launch nukes. And it's made to be the ultimate deterrence. Now, it's not a Metal Gear. They're very specific about that. Why? Because it can't launch a nuke on its own initiative. It can only launch it as a retaliatory strike. It's made to be a deterrence. Hot Coldman's vision is basically like, he doesn't believe in human deterrence because human will hesitate. And that ruins the entire point of deterrence. So the thing with Peace Walker is that it's an AI-made, AI-controlled robot, basically. So if it gets a signal, it will always fire. And Huey and Coldman is like, they're agreeing about this. It's fine. However, they disagree when Coldman reveals that he's actually planning to launch a nuke. Because in order to actually show the world this power and to make it work as a deterrence, he thinks that they need to fire it at least once for everyone to know that no, this thing doesn't fuck around. Huey gets very upset and says, you can't use my creation that way. Coldman just pushes him down some stairs because Huey's in a wheelchair. Or like robotic wheelchair legs things. And then just walks off and we talk to Huey. We fight the Poopa, which is like a robot. These things just exist, or well, 3 of them. They don't really matter to our plot, so I'm just gonna skip past them. We fight that. We see the Peace Walker being carried away by the flying robot from earlier as well. Yeah. Huey, at this point, feels betrayed by Coldman and he decides to join MSF. So he joins us in our efforts. He also says that the Peace Walker is run by an AI, but this AI is complicated, and it's developed by a woman called Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, she's called Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, so we go to the lab where Dr. Strangelove is supposed to be. We find Dr. Strangelove and the boss's horse. She has a horse in Metal Gear Solid 3, by the way, I didn't mention. It's the same horse here, 10 years later. Now, what the fuck is who is Strangelove and what's her plan and what is the AI? Basically, Strangelove is obsessed with the boss. She's in love with the boss. Or was in love with the boss before you killed her. They, during the Mercury project they met. So, her plan is basically to make an AI for this Peace Walker, but if it's supposed to be like a deterrence, the ultimate deterrence, it has to be a good fucking AI. It has to be able to make good decisions. So they decide to use the best soldier of all time as the framework, which gives Strangelove an excuse to make an AI based on the boss, which is her strange way to, in her mind, resurrect the boss. So she's implemented her voice and her personality and everything into this AI to some extent. That's the voice we heard on the tape. She takes it to the AI and you talk to the AI, and this is another scene where we get some more character development for Snake. Snake is basically goes nuts when he hears the boss's voice, and she starts screaming at him, and he basically just passes out from the trauma and wakes up on a field where they're taking the pot away. He fights some other stuff, blah blah blah. We get her horse and we fight her. No, we don't fight her horse. We ride her horse. Let's see what the fuck's happening. Yeah, we try to find the AI again. With the intention of destroying it, to stop Peace Walker and to get them out of Costa Rica. We enter the AI pod basically where we were before. This time Snake starts like he's not rational anymore. He starts screaming at it, asking, why did you betray us? Why did you betray me? Why did you really defect? Did you? And the AI has no answer for this, because the AI has no information about this, because this is a secret operation. So Strangelove couldn't implement that information. That's the missing piece of the boss's AI. And Big Boss, he basically goes nuts in there and starts screaming at it like, you're not the boss, you're not the real boss. He's detected because he's screaming at a computer, like a 12-year-old playing Counter-Strike. And Coleman is revealed to actually have planned the entire Operation Snake Eater. He's basically responsible for planning her death, the boss's death as well. Doesn't really matter in the long run. We're taken prisoner, and Strangelove tortures us a bunch because she wants answers. What happened during the Operation Snake Eater? And Snake refuses to talk. We escape prison and immediately run into Coleman once again, like some sort of comic book. He has, in some way, I don't know how, he has managed to get his hands on Paz, the person who leaked the tape in the beginning. He hates her. Hi. Wait. Yeah, so now Paz is kept like a hostage. He says that, okay, if I'm gonna launch a nuclear strike, maybe I'll use that maybe I'll just do it at a random place in the Caribbean Ocean. Maybe there'll happen to be a mother base there for a certain military company. Yeah, because now for some reason, I'm not sure how this happens, to be honest. But the AI is finished. Strangelove finds out about what happened in the Snake Eater operation. But yeah, so now he's planning to launch the nuke right now. So we fight the Peace Walker. We manage to damage the Peace Walker, but the Peace Walker escapes. We follow the Peace Walker on the boss's horse, but the boss's horse falls and is badly hurt. And we basically have to finish off the horse. And the horse represents the boss to Big Boss right now. So it's like re-experiencing that moment, the worst moment in his life. And whilst he's doing this and killing the horse, Peace Walker escapes to Nicaragua, an American missile base in Nicaragua. So yeah, we follow them to Nicaragua to stop them once again. While we're confronting Coleman, or rather, right before they're launching the nuke, Professor Galvez, the guy who gave us the mission from the beginning, walks in. And I'm just gonna grab my thing here, see what the fuck his name actually is. Yeah, and he says, my name is not Galvez, I'm Vladimir Sadornov. And it turns out he's actually been working with Coleman all this time. But now he's double-crossing him. So his plan was basically work with Coleman to develop the Peace Walker, and then use Big Boss to push him back to Nicaragua. Why do we want to push the Peace Walker back to Nicaragua? Because that's a US place. And now we're going to use the Peace Walker to launch a nuke. Not into the Caribbean Ocean, but at Cuba. Why do we not want to launch at Cuba? Because a nuclear missile is launched from an American missile base into Cuba. That's basically Soviet winning Cold War. Capitalism isn't going to do very well after that point. People won't like America. That's the basic plan. Coleman is very angry at this, but he's badly hurt by Zadornov. He tries to make Paz shoot Coleman, but she doesn't. He has a great line like, Vladimir Zadornov, Vladimir means ruler of peace. Now do as you're told, Paz. Paz means peace. Haha, symbolism. He's also planning to kill Snake and make it look like the CIA did it. Because guess what? Snake is kind of seen as a revolutionary leader at this point. So he's trying to set that in stone and make Snake become the new Che Guevara by making him a martyr. However, before he can do this, the place is stormed by MSF soldiers, and Snake is saved. Not only is he saved, they do surprisingly well. They take both Coleman and Zadornov captured. Peace Walker is neutralized, Zadornov is captured, Coleman is captured. Everything is fine. They're even out of Nicaragua, or they're even out of Costa Rica. Everything is solved. Even Strangelove asks for forgiveness. We like, it's fine, dude. But then on the way back, Coleman does something bad, like really fucking bad. He basically, the way you launch the Peace Walker, you can't launch on its own. It needs to feel that a nuke has been launched, and then you do that by sending fake data to it, and then it can launch at your chosen destination. So he activates this fake data and sends it. But he doesn't just send it to the Peace Walker. He sends fake data that the entire US is being nuked by Russia. He sends that information to NORAD, the air defense, the people who basically do that shit in America, and who decide if they're going to do a retaliatory strike or not. Why does he send this to them? Because he wants to prove his theory that human deterrence doesn't work. He wants to prove, like, you'll just watch. They won't do a retaliatory strike, but the Peace Walker will, and then his theory will be proven of deterrence, and then everything will be fine, according to him. And then he dies, like immediately, because he's badly hurt. And NORAD can't get in contact with the president, so it's just up to them. And it turns out, yo, shit, Coleman was wrong. They're actually planning to nuke Russia at this point, planning to unleash Armageddon. So we have a big thing. We take down Peace Walker. We manage to destroy Peace Walker, which at least makes it so that Peace Walker won't launch a nuke. But it doesn't stop the fake data that's still being sent to NORAD. This fake data is being sent from the AI that's controlling Peace Walker, the boss's AI. It's called the Mammal Pod. And that can't be taken down. It's made to withstand nuclear attacks. So, what the fuck do we do? We try a bunch of shit and a bunch of symbolic stuff happens. Big Boss actually calls NORAD and gets in contact with their director and tells him, like, I'm Big Boss. He's still a national hero. I'm Big Boss, and I'm telling you this is fake data. Don't launch nuke. And he manages to convince the director that he's actually Big Boss, which makes him call off the retaliatory strike. However, the other members of NORAD says, fuck this. They pull a gun on the director and say, we will launch. You can't stop us. So everything's fucked. Everything's fucked. But now comes the weird part, the symbolic part. Out of nowhere, the Peace Walker starts moving on its own. It's not supposed to be able to do this, but it just does that. And it starts singing a song and transmitting that song over to NORAD. And it basically walks straight into the ocean and drowns itself, stopping the transmission. And it's immediately being speculated that the Peace Walker was possessed by the spirit of the boss. Because ghosts exist in this universe. It's just a thing that happens. Ghosts exist. Like, they've been scientifically proven that ghosts exist. So the will of Big Boss, or the ghost of Big Boss, of Boss, takes over the Peace Walker, and see, it's symbolic because it walks away and brings peace. It's a Peace Walker.
Wow.
Whoa. And Big Boss starts at first doing the salute to what he now thinks is the boss. And then he eventually takes his bandana that he got from the boss, by the way, and throws it into the ocean. And this becomes much more important later. And that's the end of Peace Walker, right? Oh shit, it even started at the right time.
Nice.
Whoa. And now you hear a conversation between Kazuhira Miller and Big Boss. Maybe I should make that clear before we start this, because you haven't heard their voices. No, it was good. No. There.
Snake, you still here? Come on, let's go back.
I'm not going back.
Huh?
I'm done.
Snake, you don't mean...
I'm done looking for the truth.
What are you saying, Snake?
I was wrong.
Come on, boss. Everybody's waiting for you.
She betrayed me, cuz.
She what?
In the end, she put down her gun. And when she did, she rejected her entire life up to that point, including me.
What do you mean?
In giving up her life, she abandoned everything she was as a soldier.
And you consider that betrayal?
I won't make the same choice as her. My future is going to be different.
Then,
Yeah, that's right. From now on, call me Big Boss.
And that's the end of Peace Walker. No, just kidding, it's not. Peace Walker continues. So, during this game, if you know, as I said, there's like poop and different robots you fight. If you take their AI and different parts, you can use that to build your own Metal Gear with the help of Huey. So, with the help of Huey, you construct your own Metal Gear Zeke. And you just put nukes on it, making you the world's 7th nuclear power. In order to, because now you've actively taken part in the Cold War, making you a target in the Cold War as well. So just as much as Russia or America needs deterrence, you also need deterrence. Peace Walker is almost done. We'll take a break after that. Now, however, something goes wrong where Zeke, Metal Gear Zeke, is hijacked. And who hijacks it? But a character who's been very relevant in this game, but we haven't talked about a lot. It gets hijacked by Paz. Paz is revealed to actually be a double agent who works for Cypher. Yeah, she has her underwear. Yeah, she might be 14.
So weird.
It's Japan, everything is legal. Yeah, she's working for Cypher, who we as players and who Snake didn't even really know existed at this point. Yeah, and she basically says that she's taking Zeke, and that she's making a demand of MSF and Big Boss, and pretty much relays a message from Zero saying that he wants Big Boss to join him again. And he wants him to be part of the New World Order and for MSF to act as the world's deterrence, to act as the protectors of the New World Order. Big Boss says no. Paz tries to kill him. We fight Zeke. Zeke survives, like the Metal Gear, but Paz is ejected like a catapult out of Zeke and is thrown into the ocean and is presumed dead. And that's the end of Peace Walker. Right? No, wait. No, wait. No! shit, I have to go to YouTube again. I can't. Let's press escape. Escape, I said. Escape. Oh. We'll just watch it from here.
We will forsake our countries. We will leave our motherlands behind us and become one with this earth. We have no nation, no philosophy,
Notice how Snake's voice is flipped the fuck out of this
go
world.
where we're needed, fighting not for country, not for government, but for ourselves. We need no reason to fight. We fight because we are needed. We will be the deterrent for those with no other recourse. We are soldiers without borders, our purpose defined by the era we live in. We will sometimes have to sell ourselves and services. If the times demand it, we'll be revolutionaries, criminals, terrorists, and yes, we may all be headed straight to hell. But what better place for us than this? It is our only home, our heaven and our hell. This is our heaven.
That's the end of Peace Walker. Let's see how long have we been going with this for. Yeah, we'll take a break there. I think. No, we won't. We won't take a break there. We'll take a break in a few minutes. We'll get through one more game, but this game is not really a long game, so to speak. Let's get. I'm just gonna go here. Oh, where is my fat guys? Oh no, my porn. Now is the point where I've completely run out of original music.
Yes, Rosny Graham,
What?
the Brandon Research.
What's happening?
Det var igång på en.
Fat guys. I'm just gonna use the Metal Gear Solid 4 soundtrack because it's great. Is this loud enough? No. Ah! Wait, give me time.
Det är en till.
Nej.
Där är ju Susan.
Yeah, great. No. Great. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. What the fuck is Ground Zeroes? Ground Zeroes was released 1 year before the full game Metal Gear Solid 5, and it's like a demo, you could say. It's a very short game. It can be long if you do all the side missions, but there's only one map, little base you sneak into. The full game can be beat in like 20 minutes, 20-30 minutes. It usually takes about an hour first time you try. What was that? Yeah. Story of this game. MSF, Militaires Sans Frontières, they get requested by the UN to do a nuclear inspection, or the UN requests the nuclear inspection. The big boss, Kazuhira Miller, denies, says no, fuck that, because we have nukes. That's secret. But in secret, Huey Emmerich, who you will begin to hate from this point, you will hate him. He accepts. He said in secret. And everyone was like, what the fuck, dude? So now they have to like ship every soldier out of Outer Heaven or MSF, Mother Base, because they have too many. So a bunch of soldiers aren't there, and they also hide Metal Gear Zeke underwater, so they have no access to that as well. Oh, it's too loud. Whilst this is happening though, they get information that Paz might be alive. That she might be alive and she might be held in a Cypher prison camp on Cuba. Which she is. Chico, guy, he fell in love with her in the last game. So he's mad in love with her and he decides to just fuck off and try to save her himself. And fails miserably. So yeah, they're both being held captured there by a man called Skullface. Which is as close as we come to Batman villain in Metal Gear. Skullface works for XOF, Fox, but reversed. It's a cipher strike force that basically used to work as a cleanup for Fox. For example, after Operation Snake Eater, they were there and basically clean everything up and made sure everything went smoothly. That's what XOF is. And Skullface is their leader. Skullface is a weird character. He works under Cypher, but he's trying to break free of Cypher's control to some extent. But yeah, so he tortures the living shit out of Chico and Paz, reveal on some tapes you get. It's not pretty at all. It's actually like one of the most gruesome things to hear in a video game history. It's what they do to Paz, what they do to Chico, what they have Chico do to Paz when they bring out the iron pipes. And no, it's really bad. It's like the worst things you can imagine. That's what happens. Why they do this is not clear yet. They assume to get her to say information about Big Boss and MSF. But yeah, you sneak in and you rescue both of them. Or rescue is a strong word. For Chico would probably be killed either way because he betrayed them. Paz is, she's an enemy. The reason they want her is because she might know something about Cypher. So they're basically saving her in order to torture her even more. Like, they're not good guys anymore. But we managed to get them both out of there, at least. None of them can walk. Chico has like bolts through his Achilles heels, and yeah, it's really bad. We return in the chopper. In the helicopter, we noticed that helicopter back. We noticed that Paz has a scar on her stomach, and we realized, oh, there's a bomb in there. So a medic on the helicopter and has to remove the bomb. And there's no time for anesthesia. You have to just hold her down, and he just digs through her stomach. It's really, really gruesome, this game. But yeah, you get the bomb out. She passes out. When you return to Mother Base, you see that you're under attack, because the UN inspection that Huey approved of was actually a ruse. It was a way for Cypher to gain access to their base and make them unprepared. Because Zeke isn't there, most of the soldiers aren't there, they're vulnerable. So they return to a Mother Base in flames. Everything they built up these years is in flames. They barely managed to escape on chopper with Miller, Big Boss, Chico, Paz, and the medic who removed the bomb. However, when they escape, Miller is furious. Miller has completely lost it. He almost strangles Paz to get her to say something, tell something about Cypher. Paz wakes up and says that there's another bomb. Where we don't know. The worst thing you can imagine is probably the right one. So she throws herself out of chopper because she's also grown to respect Big Boss. But she doesn't do it quick enough. So she explodes right as she comes out, and the blast catches the... Is this a commercial? Yeah, that will happen sometimes. It's fine. I couldn't download the whole file because I can't do it legally. And I don't want to do it legally, and I don't want to pay for it. So I want to use the YouTube thing that's not been taken down. But I couldn't download that because it's too big. Sure, it's fine. But yeah, she throws herself out and she explodes on the way down, getting the chopper caught in the blast and making it crash. And that's where the game ends. Okay. And we'll get back to that in the next game. But now let's take a pause.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When is this in time?
Oh shit, I forgot to say that. This is 1 year after, or a few months after Peace Walker.
Which was in...
74. So this is 75.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, great.